সুপ্রিয় দর্শক সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি টিভিএন 24 টেলিভিশন আয়োজিত সাপ্তাহিক আয়োজন টিবিএন স্পেশাল। আমি হাবিব রহমান আছি আপনাদের সাথে। আশা করি যারা বাসে বসে দেখছেন পরবর্তীতে এই সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া ইউটিউব এন্ড ফেসবুকে দেখবেন সবাই ভালো আছেন, সুস্থ আছেন। Today's TBN Special is a bit different because not really different, but it's an election year, and we would like to have some news from elected officials, and because of that, I invited today in our studio Stacey, Pheffer, Amato, New York State Assemblywoman, District 23. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedule to be in the studio. We'll have many things that we will discuss, but let's start slow, and then we're going to go into deeper water and see how things are working for you and what you have been doing for the communities. Let's start with that. Since you were elected, tell us some of the biggest things you have done that you are proud of.
Well, first of all, thanks
for the community. And
Thank you
I want to remind our viewers that if you are in Ozone Park, Rockaway, Breezy Point, Howard Beach, it is specific to you, but actually it's open for everybody. Please start. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. But to say what you've done and the successes, I'm just proud of the work that my team does in the community. Ozone Park, particularly a rich community. We have a diverse community here, and working to me as an elected official, one is the laws that we can make, but also locally on the quality of life issues and issues like that. So let's just go right into what's more important to all of our families, which is education. And we've really worked closely with all of our local schools.
Right.
We bring a reading program every year. We make sure that the state budget reflects that priority, and we have increased money to come into our schools every year into the billions, which is what we need because we are a public education system. A second, a big victory that definitely affects your community is the Cross Bay Bridge rebate on the bridge. We have a bridge that goes from North Queens to South Queens, the Cross Bay Bridge,
right,
and that had a toll on it for everyone.
Yeah.
At one point, we took that toll off for the Rockaways and Broad Channel, and then we opened it up and we won. I worked with that with Senator Joseph Piedabo.
Right.
And the toll is eliminated if you have an Easy Pass account so that all the folks from North Queens can come down, want to enjoy the beaches, but have an opportunity for employment. We have tons of schools, tons of work, and we felt that was an unfair toll. So those are just two little hits in a family sort of focus, but there's so many things we work on a daily basis. One of my pride and joys is my constituent services in my community. And we've solved over 10,000 cases of people that come to our office just for help from any part of government, but particularly in the state. And believe it or not, there's a lot of issues that people have. And I believe that government must work for its people.
Of course. You mentioned the Broad Channel and then the Cross Bay Bridge that you eliminated the toll, which is great because it's not only great for people who want to go there, but also people who want to conduct business because it brings in business. So on this topic, have your office or you have done anything for small businesses to grow? If you have any examples or any work you have done, because we live in a different time. You have Walmart, you have Targets, there's big companies, Amazons. When I was growing up in Queens, spent time here, there were a lot of deli shops, lots of small businesses, lots of candy shops, newspaper stands. We don't see them anymore, right? So the small business is going away, which is a livelihood for any vibrant neighborhood. It keeps them afloat. It makes them, feel like that they are in their community, they're making a living and helping their families. Have your office or have you taken any initiatives to re-energize these small businesses in your district?
Absolutely. So first, a small business is the fabric of a community.
Of course.
And it's a local job, and it's also a place to go and people to know that local person if they live. So we, in the 23rd Assembly District, we have so many businesses that people who live and own a business in their district.
Correct.
So before being elected, just so that we're a little background, I was elected in 2017, but I'm very proud that I married into a beautiful family. that owned a pizzeria, small pizzeria restaurant in the Rockaways for 40 years. So I was married into a family, seeing what that looks like and what it's about, serving 3 generations. So I took that knowledge with me to Albany and made sure that I was a protector for the small businesses in our community. Unfortunately, on the state level, we have some ability to affect our small businesses, but it's really more on a city level.
Right.
And I will say to you that Albany is not City Hall. So what I look for on the big level in Albany is really about workman's comp, places that we can help the businesses on the bigger, where the taxes are, unemployment insurance, things that cost in the overhead part of a small business. But we do talk about shopping local, being in our community. We're forever walking around in our stores. We have pamphlets and information to say to the business owner, if you have a problem, call us, we could connect with you, because we have liaisons on all levels of government that we can help you. If it's taxes, it could be a worker in the building in that small business that might have an issue that we can help. So we always say to everyone, if you are living and working in the 23rd, we represent you. But on the bigger level in the government, they are constantly overreaching and getting very involved in small business, which can range from, do you think a small business is a 25 people business or is it 100 people? And we're trying to make that distinction, because we know mom and pop means maybe there's like 7 people working in the business, and how can we help that small local business opposed to a 80 people, 60 people, little different view. So we try to make sure we're distinguishing between that. But I agree with you. I love walking locally in all my parts of my community. I know all the business owners. It's really great to make a relationship that way.
Quick question.
Sure.
Howard Beach, Breezy Point, many people go there. The beaches are not up to in par with many other beaches. Even though you can say, hey, we can go head to head with Coney Island, but they have few things going on which attracts many people. They have this Brooklyn Cyclone, they have the Nathans, they have the pizzerias, the boardwalk. Do you think we can see anything like this in Howard Beach or Breezy Point or Rockaways? Any hope?
Well, so different beaches, different regulations. So in Rockaway Beach, that boardwalk was revived after Hurricane Sandy. It's a beautiful boardwalk, goes from Beach 9th continuous to Beach 126. And the concession stands are growing every year, and there's a lot happening on and working with our public New York City park system.
Correct.
But Howard Beach, some of the challenges there, it's a federal park. So that's very limited on our federal partners, which I just recently had a walkthrough with Congressman Meeks, and we did a walkthrough with him to talk about how we need an investment in our parks. There should be a soccer field in Charles Park. We need upgraded flooring where the kids play on the swings. There's so much great opportunity for investment, but that's a different level of funding. So we struggle. Believe it or not, in our New York State, each level of government, the funding doesn't talk to each other. But we're always looking for opportunities to grow, to have more folks come and enjoy in the public spaces. So we're always looking for that opportunity. So
you're restricted by the federal rules.
Yeah, there's different federal rules, and it's their dollars. But I will tell you that the success that's been happening in the Rockaways, in Broad Channel, and some of the parks there, the trickle effect is all the businesses along Cross Bay and Woodhaven, people tell me they have routines, they know where they stop to get supplies, and so everyone does well when we all do well. So I think when the 23rd busts, we all bust open wide.
You're talking about bus to transit. Tell me about that. You have done a lot of work, and it helps a lot of people because you can hop on and hop in between the two services. It was difficult because, you want to go there, you really have limited choices, right? Unless you drive. Tell me about what inspired you to this bus to transit MTA transition with one tickets and things like that. So
one thing, when any event we go to, number one is quality of life. And then number two is transportation on this end of Queens. We are a transit desert. Even if you take the Ozone Park, it's very limited. So we're looking constantly in spaces where we could almost micromanage a success. So I mentioned the Cross Bay Bridge. And also one thing we did in the Far Rockaway community was create a city ticket, because in Far Rockaway you go through Nassau County, and if you could believe it, people were saying that you had to pay more because you went through Nassau County. So all the folks that live on the peninsula who want to take that. But now we're looking about how we have to go, north, south, or east, west, and you can use one ticket that you could transfer from your train to your bus. And we're looking at more ways to make that connection happen. There's actually conversation about talking about how do we fund a ferry system in more places that we can use that ticket. But in this community, the bus system is bustling, and we need more buses on our streets, and we need more express buses. That's the number one thing I hear, is that I work at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it takes me a half hour longer to get to the city opposed to the early bus.
Right.
But we want to save money because it's off peak. So we've been trying to look at a micro model of how we can help folks have better opportunity for transportation, and being able to use one ticket. Going from a train to a bus is one way that make it smooth, and you're not fussing and bustling, and you're not paying a double fare zone. And that we have to look more where we can increase that to happen. But I'm a big believer that if you want people to take the public system, you have to have more and more opportunity. No one works the same way anymore.
Yeah, of course. And you're absolutely right. It's kind of difficult. It is a transit desert, so to speak. Are we going to see anytime soon, or any planning for Howard Beach and those places to have a boat service directly to Manhattan?
So probably not there, because it's depending on where the ferry system could land. However, but how do you can you get from Howard Beach? Could you go a little south to pick up the ferry that's a more direct ride? Because it might be less time to go from Howard Beach to Rockaway, be able to park and take a $2.75. I forget the exact amount, I apologize. $2.75 for the ferry, though. I think it's $4. It went up different times. But you're actually, now that the toll bridge is, if you have an easy pass, you're going through. So how do we look at alternate ways? I think something that is a long-term from happening, but believe in, is the Rockaway Beach Rail Line, which is reviving that rail system, which was the old Long Island Railroad. I was in the 2nd Avenue subway system, and I saw what they built. For Manhattan, and we need that in the outer boroughs. And that's why we've never given up. Our foot's on the pedal to keep focusing on that system to come through Queens, because that would be a game changer for everyone. Okay,
I hope that happens, and I really hope to see it sooner. I know it takes time, because these are a budgeting issue. They go through CBOs and all these things. It becomes complicated, and you need all these yays to go through these things.
And money.
and money. Now, when you just mentioned about governments overreaching, right? One thing that we most of the time hear about speeding, especially in that part of it. Some say that you need more traffic lights, and some say, hey, maybe, but how does it work, right? So you have this catch-22 kind of thing, having more traffic light, or educating people about conscience, about knowing how to behave. Are you open to the idea of having more traffic lights there, so people are fine and they actually slow down, or would you take a different approach to it? How would you handle this? So in my opinion, I feel lately there's an attack on drivers. Yes. So as a car owner, and proud to be one, I think there's an attack on drivers, and I don't think we should not be funding on making a mistake in a speed zone. I understand why speed limits are lowered. Yeah. It's a safety issue. Yes. But congestion pricing, I was very happy that the governor froze that. And I think it should be frozen. Yeah. Because I think it's another attack on driving into the city, another tax on working middle class folks. We need to fix the public system to make it better, and we need that investment as capital money. And we always have funded the MTA through the state budget. But to turn around and have an astronomical amount of money for someone who might go to a doctor, or our first responders that are going to the city, or the day you want to take your car because you're continuing upstate to go somewhere, and you're getting hit with a $15 double toll, depending on which tunnel you're going through, and so on and so forth. Plus the fine.
I just didn't really appreciate that, and I'm glad the governor stopped it, and I think there's going to be a lot of conversations around that. But speeding and more does not teach a habit. So I think we have to do a better education. That's on the city to further educate folks. But adding more doesn't make it better. I think we could talk to people and help them understand why the speed zone around a school should be slower. But to keep hitting people with ticket after ticket and fine after fine, and then losing your car is out of control.
Be in agreement with you anymore. I mean, this is just like I said, catch-22. Yes, of course we want safety. But then again, if you keep fining me for over the 5 miles, of the speed limit, right? Speed limit. And I'm keep catching them, that's going to pile up, and I'm going to lose my license. I'm going to lose my car because I don't know when I got them. Maybe I didn't even receive those mails. And next thing you know, your car is towed. It's a punishment for the drivers. I totally agree with you. It doesn't work this way.
And I'll say to you, in my opinion also, is that we've made it very difficult. That's, to me, some of the government overreach to process to help yourself out. So we work a lot with Easy Pass and customers. So as much as I want the Cross Bay Bridge to have a rebate program on it to give it back, we find people have $30,000 bills because they get caught in a web that they can't solve it. And then that's a failure on the system if you can't fix your problem. If I can't get on the phone and stop the bleeding and correct that, that's a failure. So we push back against that. Or people who are really taking advantage of the system, the fake plates, and breaking the law. But me, good person, working every day, taking care of my children, I get 4 tickets. Now I get fined. Next thing you know, I'm going through a toll and they're taking my car. Because we've heard these stories.
Yeah, of course. I'm a victim of that. Different day we'll discuss maybe.
I'll try to help you.
Horror stories. Okay. I want to switch gears.
Sure.
Some of the things that you voted in the past, there are critics who say that was the wrong thing to do. I want to hear from you. So I'm going to bring up this bail reform part of it. In 2019, you voted in favor of a state budget package that included legislation to adopt no cash bail. I'm sure you're aware of that. And of course, you face critics. New York City Councilwoman Joanne Ariola, I'm sure you heard of her. She said that you should have voted no out of principle. Okay. She also acknowledged that legislation that you have passed to benefit the NYPD and the city workers. She did mention that the benefits for the widows and widowers, right? But she also said that she created those. You created. She created those widows and widowers, meaning you created those widows and widowers. I'm going to mention Jonathan Diller, who's a detective, was killed by I'm not going to say serial killer, but a criminal, a carrier criminal, let's say, right? And the person who was helping him, his accomplice, was also a carrier criminal. So if you have this in your mind, there are 2 questions. How do you respond to that councilwoman's characterizations of your voting record? And do you feel, or do you think, or do you bear any or some responsibilities for those tragedies, the detectives, because of your vote? Those are the 2 questions.
You'll have to repeat your questions again, but thank you very much for the opportunity to have this discussion with you.
I can repeat them.
I know it's a very serious topic, and I thank you very much for having this conversation with me. And I'm going to go forward a little bit, but let's just make something very clear that Albany is not City Hall, and the councilwoman should actually stay in her lane. What I found more and more on this campaign trail is that people don't fully understand civics.
Of course.
So when we did vote on the budget package and how the bail, first of all, there's still a bail system. There's still a bail system. So when people say the propaganda of no cash bail, there's still a bail system in New York State. The goal was at the time to to have innocent to proven guilty because you stole a backpack, that you didn't get thrown into jail for 6 months, that a working father in a community that maybe made a mistake, a DUI, drove home, that he wasn't sent in jail for 8 months, and that his family didn't become homeless, couldn't work. So there was a conversation about innocent to proven guilty, and let's reform the system to be more fair. So they took bail out of certain crimes. So you commit a crime, you go to a judge, the judge says you can go home, remand, come back in 2 months for your sentencing, and we'll figure out a lighter sentence, or we'll work that out, but you can go home and work because it wasn't a violent crime. This, we voted in a budget packet that comes in the middle of the night after being up days, and you've negotiated for months on the money of a budget. I had really important legislation within there that protects the community at that time. And when these policies come in, which should never be part of the state budget, we are kind of forced in a way, it's like political blackmail, to vote on a policy. This policy at the time seemed sort of fair in that we were going to not have people have to stay in jail because of the amount of bail cost. It went sideways immediately. The budget's passed in April. In June, we had already reformed and amended. So a lot of what we see on TV, and it was amended 3 more times, we added 20 hate crimes to follow up on making sure we're microing down on crime. So we really looked at the crime. Did it expose us? Yes. Did it go sideways and folks were being let out? Yes. That came down to judges and district attorneys. I'm going to say to you, in Queens, I'm so proud that Melinda Katz is our district attorney.
Yeah.
She's a fabulous partner. She is fair. She hears what we have to say when we do talk about cases in the neighborhood. If someone was arrested in Ozone Park and they were a repeat offender, and we talked to our district attorney. But what we're finding is on television, we're being reported of all the worst cases in the scenarios. In Manhattan, in the Bronx, in Brooklyn. That doesn't happen in Queens. So does it concern me? Of course it does. But everything that happens is not happening here because of the relationships we have, district attorneys, judges, and the police. I work closely with every precinct in under my in my leadership of Assemblywoman. We have specifics. We get called when crimes happen, when people are arrested. I work with every captain. I'm endorsed by every police union, or I could say that after, but supported by them. So we talk to them on different levels. We're actually working on how we could fix some of the more of the loopholes that are out there. But there is a bail system. So God forbid you stab someone, someone does. There's a system that says you are a violent offender, you go in. What we're finding is it's in Manhattan that the district attorney is not applying the crime to the highest level, and then a judge makes a decision to let that person go home. I do not support this at all. I've worked tirelessly of reversing what was a good intention, which we know went sideways. But we can't legislate. Doesn't matter if we change it and then we put everyone in jail for everything. You spit on the sidewalk, I'm going to throw you in jail. But I can't legislate your consciousness. I can't legislate your intention. We can only do it with a system, a process. Is it working properly? No. Is it getting better? Absolutely. Gun violence is down. In some of our precincts, we have mostly our crime level has been at almost pre-pandemic, but we have a little uptick in domestic violence. In some felonies, there's a car thefts throughout our districts that way. But as far as that statement that you said, bearing responsibility, I don't. I bear responsibility every day to take care of my district. I'm working on legislation with the widows, the survivors of the Shield. So I know that they know that I support them in this tragic situation. But the people that commit murder and crime and decide to have guns, illegal guns and firearms, that's on them. And I need a system that puts them in jail. I believe that violent offenders should be in jail and remain in jail.
So in short, what you're saying is violent offenders don't fall into this categories.
Yep.
First-time offenders catch a break, depends on the type of the crime. Is that correct?
That's fair. Yes.
Okay. That's So that everybody understands.
Thank you.
I want to throw in a question that we heard about it, but I also know that you have done something really good for the DACAs. The Dreamers Act, as far as education is concerned. I know it's federal. I know it's not a law. It's discretionary. We all know that. So it's not a law. It's not a regulation. It's discretionary. It's executive orders from the presidents, and that's why they're here. And that's why it's such a sticky point. But I want to bring your attention to Migrant Base Camp across the bridge, Lloyd Benefield talked about. There was a rally in opposition obviously. And there was rumor that, it is a possibility. You and I spoke briefly about this right before our interview. And you were on the stage and you were booed. And you said, don't boo me, go boo Kathy Hochul, right? Because there was this lawsuit, of course, and it was unsuccessful. You were part of it, right? But we know there are instances where migrants are panhandling, trespassing, not just Far Rockaway, across the city. This is a regular occurrence, right? So if you look at that entire situation a year later now, right? I think, right? It's a year later, maybe?
It's a year.
Yeah, it's
we
a
just
year,
renewed
right?
them, at least we renewed.
So what's your thoughts on how the city, the state has handled that situation? Because there are many complaints. I'm talking about migrant crisis, right? And what are some of the things that you and your office have done to address this, and what is going on Floyd Benefield? I do know that it's outside of Rockaway. So, but close proximity. Your response, please.
Yeah, so the Migrant Camp in Floyd Benefield was opened up about a year ago, a little over a year. It's in Brooklyn. It's a couple of miles out of the part of the district that's the Rockaways, and then it's about 10 miles if you take the Bell Parkway to the other part of the district, Howard Beach Ozone Park.
Right.
It's affecting everyone, which is why this year's budget I voted no against $2.4 billion in the budget, because it is now affecting our life as residents of New York City. The state bailed out the city. The city made a deal with the federal government to sign a lease in a federal park, and the state is paying for it. So the city goes into a contract and we're funding it. I was happy to stand on that stage in every protest possible that I was able to attend to say that the governor is not listening to our worries and our concerns, which a lot of them have come true.
Right.
I was just at an event on Saturday where I saw videos of the buses being inundated at the bus stop, that people are coming from the south to go north for work, and the buses are being inundated with people selling items and baby carriages and not going on the buses they're supposed to, inundating the public bus, not paying the fares, making the buses late, and it's really affecting quality of life. Folks were coming in and begging at different stores throughout the community, which it doesn't make people feel comfortable. People don't want to do that. The crisis is severe because there's no plan. So there's no plan on our federal government's part to have an immigration system. Many people want to come here and immigrate legally, and then we're having this influx and there's no way to handle it. So the city is forced to, because it's a sanctuary city, to take in people in the shelters to feed. And that money, he basically was going broke, and the governor said, I'm going to help pay for it. Now, money in years prior, it's a huge state. Let's talk about the entire New York state, the Canadian border. We've always helped out community-based organizations as a state because they don't have the same funding like the city. So in Syracuse and Binghamton, there's smaller cities in
Buffalo,
they had to help them. Plattsburgh, they had to help these small townships take care of things. But now that it's blown up in the city and we're really looking, and the communities don't want to support this kind of recklessness, well, our voices were loud, but it didn't happen. She renewed the lease this time. I expressed explicitly my disappointment in that. I think there's places to find it. There's a lot of empty land upstate in New York, and I think there were better places to handle it. But there's too many people I know who've been here, have a tax ID number, have a path to citizenship, and that's not happening for them. So why don't we take the people here 20 years, working hard, 10 years, have that path, and help them get that citizenship and not
which they deserve. Because they are working in the community, they're paying the taxes, they're doing the right things, and they're falling behind the line.
Yep, they're not even on the line.
They're not even on the line.
It bothers me terribly that that's happening.
Upstate has a lot of Dutchess
Here too.
County. You can go to Dutchess County, Orange County. They're going to kill me if they hear me.
I know.
Syracuse, Rochester. You have a lot of space, a lot of room.
There's places that things can be handled differently. So yes, I agree.
We are crowded as it is. It's going to be terrible. And $2.4 billion is not a peanut money, all right?
Nope.
So it's not a pocket change that you can ignore it. Ultimately, it comes down to the people who are paying taxes.
And the voices of the people. That's my job, is to listen to the voices of the people. And they express in every part of my district that they are concerned about this, folks. And now we're in the schools, and that changes things too.
Very briefly, you've faced criticism for this, but you have done something wonderful, in my opinion. And I'm not saying this to make you happy or people happy. The dreamers or the DACA recipient, the kids who came here, as a minor, you have done some work, and there were people who were saying that you have done it with the government budget or federal budget or state budget. And I dug up into it, but I want to hear from you. And why did you do it? And how does it help for people who actually deserves it? Please.
So thank you for asking the question, because I really, it's really tough when the information is being sent out that's not correct. The Dreamer Act was passed,
right?
And I signed on. I actually voted for that because it changed the laws of SUNY. The state statute, the laws, govern the State University of New York. So we had to change a law that said we're going to create a fund that is open for students that are dreamers, which are students that were brought here by their parents and didn't know. Some people, I have a friend actually who didn't know she was a dreamer until she applied for school. This money is not from taxpayer dollars, not from taxpayer dollars. It's privately funded. It is an account that's open, but we had to pass a law that says the DREAM Act exists on the state level in the SUNY system so that money can be received and used for a student in this situation. But there are no tax dollars going into
privately
this.
Funded.
It's privately funded.
I want to tell people who are watching, if you are one of those dreamer in Rockaway, Breezy Point, Howard Beach, or Ozone Park, you may want to contact her office, because it's not state funded, it's not federally funded. It is privately funded, and her office can help you if you are going to SUNY, especially if you're going to SUNY. In private colleges and stuff, it doesn't count, okay? So we are winding down today's interview. I know it's election year. You are up for re-election.
I am.
First of all, easy question. How is it going from 2022 and now? And the second question is, what is different this year from 22 to 24? 2022 and 24, sorry.
It's going great. I love retail politics, if you want to say. If it's campaigning, or I'm known to take my office out on the road. Over 24 stops we do. We bring services to the community. We bring a table, a banner, and we're out there on the street corner, Ozone Park Library. We were by the IHOP, everywhere we could possibly go. So the extension of that, when you campaign, I love knocking on doors. I love talking. I love hearing what's concerning people. Tens of thousands of doors we've been out there. The campaign is people-powered, volunteer-powered. As diverse as my community. So that's very exciting to me. What's different in 2024 than 2022 is the obvious. We have a huge presidential election on the top of that ticket that has national attention, and everyone is paying attention, and it's making it really exciting for people to get engaged in elections, because it's your right to vote, and you should vote. So many people do not register and don't go out to vote. This is how you can have this is where it matters, because when I won by 15 votes last time, that meant every vote counted and mattered.
Talk about nail biter.
Yep. One vote by hand count, and then we had a couple of issues with the Board of Elections, and it came out plus 15. But that meant every vote counted and mattered. But in this, what's different is that everyone's paying attention.
Right.
But what's most important to this community and this conversation is going down the ballot. Whatever your choices are on top, but when you go down the ballot, those are your local elections. It's senator, it's assembly race, different years, different race, but you have to go all the way. Those are your local judges. So when we talk about bail reform and judges that do their job, vote for our Queens judges and go straight down that. I shouldn't say straight, but it's the local races that are down below that matter. So you know what? In this district, I'm very proud.
Yeah.
People go all over the place.
Yes. And we do, we do a lot of work when it comes to elections. We have a dedicated show. It's called Our Democracy. And we have another show called Road to White House. In those shows, I think starting from next week, we will be showing the ballots. And it's good that you mentioned you got to go down the ballot to find the local candidates. Right. You are the constituents here, and you need to know who to vote and why. Viewers who are listening and watching this, what are you telling them, especially your constituents?
I love my constituents. I love being the Assemblywoman. I love serving people. Being an elected official is about serving people. It's about people, not party, not background. It's hello, how can I help you? And that's the motto of my office. We've been doing it, 10,000 cases individually. So what I just love that work, and that's what's important to me first. So that doesn't matter what party, and that's what I love to serve. And that's why I want to be reelected, to continue that work that's representing people and their voices. It could be as, and I don't want to say simple, like I'm taking away, of a concern in a school, as big as owing $30,000 to an Easy Pass bill. But we address everyone with respect, and our doors are open. We're accessible, we're available, and that's what I feel that like we've really accomplished. It's building trust with the community. They know they can come to me. I have Messenger, Facebook. I answer people directly. Everyone has my phone number, and if you don't, please take it before we're done. But that's what it's about. It's about people and hearing those concerns and their families, and just to have a great life.
Specific, I want you to be specific to Bangladeshi Americans who are watching from your district, your specific message to them.
So I will say to you that one thing that I've heard over the last couple of years is one thing I'm very proud of is I became chair of the Governmental Employee Committee on the New York State Assembly, which means I oversee pensions and health benefits and great public service jobs, sanitation, fire, our school teachers, our nurses. And what I've been able to do over the last 2 years is help increase many people taking the job. We've been hearing how we have a shortage of city workers, of state workers. People are doing more remote work. And I've worked with my committee to increase the amount of people taking jobs. We took away all the fees on the state level jobs, and that people wanting to take public sector jobs again. And know that I work closely with quality of life and public safety. Public safety is my number one focus. It has always been. It is about, but it's that personal relationship of public safety, making sure what's going on your block, what's happening, abandoned cars, taking your video that you sent to me, working with the police to catch the person who's invaded your space, and making sure that you can come back and forth to work and come home to your beautiful families in your community. That is what we are focused on, quality of life issues, and I'm going to continue to do that and focus on your families.
Congresswoman, Assemblywoman, I hope one day, you and I will be sitting.
Thank you, projecting.
I really hope that happens. But Assemblywoman, I really appreciate you taking time and explaining every single things. Some of the things were difficult, I know, but you've been upfront and open. I hope, and I really hope you get reelected. I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you after election also.
Thank you.
So that we can continue our conversation.
I will, and thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate this. I love an open conversation. Thank you again. I look forward to being back.
You're welcome. এই ছিল এখনকার মতো TBN 24। আশা করি অনুষ্ঠানটি ভালো লেগেছে। If you are in district, আপনি যদি district 23-তে থেকে থাকেন, Stacy is your person. You want to vote for her. I don't want to say how you should vote, but she has done a lot of work, and I think you should give her a chance. সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, শুভরাত্রি।
TBN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556। লগ ইন করুন www.totalcablebd.com।
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TBN 24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।